This is a video about Britain's general election coming up. It's not going to have any philosophy in it, it's just my opinions. I'd like to talk to people who are intending to vote either for the Conservative Party or for UKIP, so please do share this video with them. Share it with your mums and dads and your aunts and uncles if that's the way they're inclined. Hello to all you Tory and UKIP voters. My name is Ollie, I appreciate you joining me. I'm just going to take about 10 minutes of your time. I'm not voting either Tory or UKIP, I'm politically very left-wing, and if I had to explain to you how I came to that position, I'd say that I grew up in an environment where the general political consensus was that things are generally okay. Like, there's a few places where a little bit of reform is needed, and maybe there are places even when things are really bad, but most of the time, politically speaking, things are alright. But over time, I came to reject that view. And now I think that the world is actually very deeply, in a big way and on a big scale, very, very wrong. And it's going to take a lot of fixing. And I started asking, why is the world bad? And the governments that I've lived under in my lifetime so far have provided some answers. So round my way, I'm from the north, there was a lot of emphasis placed on catching benefit cheats. They're the bad people. But then I learned that corporate tax avoidance costs the country a lot more every year than benefit fraud. There was also a lot of emphasis placed on immigrants, like they're the bad people. But then I asked myself, well, when was the last time an immigrant did me wrong? Versus, when was the last time a rich politician did me wrong? I rent in London now. It's very, very expensive. A lot of people can't afford it and they're homeless, live on the streets. But did you know that there are more empty houses in London than there are homeless people? And the homeless charity Shelter has said that 47% of London's homeless have jobs. It's just that the jobs don't pay them enough to live on. Some people say that immigrants lower wages, but the last time I was asked to work longer hours for less money, it wasn't an immigrant asking me to do that. It was the man who owned the business. Nurses have taken a pay cut of over £2,000 in the last 5 years. And it wasn't immigrants making them do that either. Who was it who decided to crack down on trade unions so that workers couldn't negotiate for good wage jobs anymore? It wasn't immigrants. I have a friend who works in the pub across the road from me. She's on a 0 hours contract, so she never knows whether she's going to be able to make rent or not this month. The other week, she was told that they just put breaks on her schedules because they have to, and she's not really allowed to take them. And they made her work a 13-hour shift without any breaks. Now that's illegal, and it made her ill. But she had no choice because it's that or lose her flat. So whose fault is that? It's not an immigrant. I have a lot of school friends now who've joined the army. I nearly joined the army myself. I was an army cadet for years. Younger viewers might not remember the Iraq War, but in 2003, America and Britain invaded Iraq. Now, the University of Washington has estimated that we killed about 500,000 people in that war, either directly or indirectly. 500,000 people, that's like the population of Edinburgh. And the promise was that it would make us all safer, but the former head of MI5 has said that the Iraq War actually increased the number of terrorist threats against the country because we killed so many people, and then obviously their friends and family were pissed off at us. I genuinely worry that my school friends are going to get sent off to fight and die for some ridiculous cause that's just going to put them and us all in pointless danger. But we're still making the same mistakes with our foreign policy, so who's making those decisions? Britain is the second biggest arms exporter in the world, and people don't like us for it. So who's allowing that to happen? I started this channel when tuition fees increased because I wanted everyone to be able to learn what I was learning no matter how much money they had. I see some of my friends who are younger than me, I was in the last year to pay the old tuition fees, struggle every day with student debt. It affects every single financial decision that they make. It makes them miserable. Who did that to them? People say that immigrants take up room in hospitals and schools and houses, but why aren't there enough places in hospitals and schools for everyone? We know that there are enough houses because there's more empty houses than homeless people, so what's going on there? They say that we can't afford these things, but who caused the financial crisis? And who allowed the ones responsible to escape jail? Who's been making all the cuts to the NHS and to education and to public services so that there isn't enough money to go around? And if there's not enough money, why are we giving tax breaks to the richest people in the world and saddling everyone else with so much debt? And if there's not enough money, how come we can always afford wars? Who makes these decisions? It's not immigrants. It's not refugees. It's not Muslims. It's not foreigners or feminists or gay people or ISIS or benefit cheats or Jews. People have said things like, we need to take our country back. And yeah, I agree with you. But who owns it? Because I don't think it is Muslims and refugees, lads. They want the same thing we do. They're just trying to get on in the world. Literally, who owns the country? If you take the tube into London, who owns the houses and the skyscrapers and the companies and the banks? Because if we're going to be taking the country back, we need to go to the people who actually have it in their pockets. For decades, I've heard people say things like, oh, politicians, they're all crooks, they're just in it for themselves, you can't trust them. But then, when those same politicians turn around and say, yeah, you know who the real problem is? It's immigrants, or it's poor people, or it's foreigners, or it's lazy people, or it's anyone except the rich, or it's not realistic or practical enough for us to expect to change things. We believe them. We said that they were crooks, and we were right. There's evidence every day that they're crooks. But we still believe them when they tell us where they think the problems come from. And of course they tell us that greed isn't the problem, because that's how they make their money. Why do you believe them? I don't know. Why did I? I used to believe it. Then I started listening to some different voices. I've been lucky to listen to a lot of different people in Britain. I've listened to black Londoners who get stopped and searched every other day by the police. I've listened to Scots whose beautiful countryside is being sold to developers. I've listened to people whose houses are being demolished in West Kensington to make way for shopping centres. I've spoken to old people who are stuck in care homes in Newcastle with crap care because the budgets have been cut. I've spoken to sex workers who are just trying to make a living. I've spoken to women who survived domestic violence even though domestic violence shelters are being cut and closed down. I've spoken to students who are on the edge of being deported. I've read the words of immigrants who've been detained and imprisoned and abused without trial. I've listened to UKIP voters as well, like my auntie, who are pretty worried. I've even read the words of terrorists and criminals, not to condone them, but to try and understand them better. And do you know, there's one word that we are all using. And this is really weird. I was shocked when I noticed this. It's like this one word comes up again and again and again. It's like the spirit of the political outcast. The one word everyone uses. Humiliated. So, Tory and UKIP voters, I hope you understand why I'm not going to be voting with you on this election. Because the problem is not the scroungers at the bottom. It's the scroungers at the top. You don't have to answer any of these questions to me. In fact, please don't. Please don't make reply videos and leave comments and so on. Don't try and answer the questions right away. Just take them away and hold on to them and think about them. The poet Rilke once said, "Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves like locked rooms and like books that are now written in a very foreign tongue. Do not now seek the answers which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then, gradually, without noticing it, live some distant day into the answer." Thanks very much for watching and for being so cool about it. I will now say goodbye to all of those Tory and UKIP voters. Bye! And for my regular fans, that was a bit different, wasn't it? I felt like I had to do something for the election just to feel like I was doing something. I originally wrote something that was a lot more polemical, but then I rewrote it and decided to be a little bit more open. No doubt some people are going to be thinking, I wanted to do this channel for philosophy, this isn't philosophy, it's just opinion, and yeah, don't worry, I hear you. This video is extra to the schedule, it's not replacing anything, normal programming will resume. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go and do left-wing things like cry and be cucked and wear a Russian hat and suppress the free speech of honest, upstanding Nazis. Goodbye.